Welcome back to Learning CSS. Let me show you some font properties. After last time where we've explored text properties, we're now going to adjust our text here using the font properties. Yet again, lorem ipsum text in paragraph. Font family, font minus family is the first property, and this can be used to change the font right here. It's relatively easy, but you can always add fallbacks. So if a certain browser can't find one of these, let's just say the browser can't find monospace, then it would use Times New Roman now. Times New Roman is something that's inbuilt in basically all browsers, but you can even add a serif or sans serif, and this is something that definitely is there in all browsers, all versions. So you can define multiple fallbacks just in case that a certain font isn't available. Let us target our H1, yet again font minus family, and this time we use copperplate. And this is not installed by default in my browser Firefox. I'm using Firefox on the left here. So let me add a fallback of sans serif. And I've made the same typo here again, I'm sorry about that. But you can see here we now have a sans serif font family for our H1 as copperplate isn't found. We have more font properties, for example the style. This is normal by default, but we can add italic and something called oblique. Oblique is a little bit like italic, but it's not that common in browsers. You can see here my browser can actually read it. And by the way, don't mistake this, you can't add a font minus style for bold. I know that most graphic design and photo editing softwares have that as a style, but it's not really a style in browsers or for browsers. Font style is usually normal or italic, and as I've said in rare cases, oblique. When you want to add a bold style, you have to use the property font weight. So not font style anymore, it's the font weight. And now this bold. You can combine it with a font style of italic, no problem with that. Next property is a font variant, and this is either small, caps, or normal. To be honest, I've never used it, but it exists, so just in case you may want to check that out, small caps as a value. But usually I keep it to normal. As I've said, I've never used small caps myself in any instance. And finally the font size. Let me make that way bigger using 40 pixels, and this works also. Now you may have the question, what about this copperplate? What if we wanted to import this? How can we do that? Well, we can actually add a link to it in our head. Let me use a different one here. I use audio wide, which can be found via Google Fonts. And to access this, we'll have to tell the browser that it should take it from a source, in our case the Google Fonts. So I use link, relationship style sheet, and then the href is the link to the font. And here's a group of fonts, and it includes audio wide. Now we can see it. Same goes for Sophia and Treewrong. So these 3 fonts are grouped in this Google font link, and therefore the browser can now find it. It takes a little bit of loading time, so keep that in mind. If you need a very quick loading page, be careful with that. But let me comment this out, and I keep everything in our CSS on the right. And now it can't find this Treewrong anymore, and we have the default. And this way you should always add fallbacks. And if I use audio white here, the browser can't find it either. So even when you link to the specific font, always make sure to use a fallback, just in case the link is broken. Maybe it's temporarily unavailable, something like this. We can also add a shorthand way of writing for all of our font properties. To do that, we'll go back to our paragraph and we'll just use the font property. Order is a little bit different than what I've presented here. The first one is actually the style. So we'll add italic, then we can get rid of this. Second one is the variant. We'll make that small minus caps. Third one is the weight. In our case, it was bold. Then we have the font size, 40 pixels. And finally the font family. I've made that monospace. And let me add a fallback directly, sans serif. I'll get rid of the comments. And you can see here, this also works. Let me switch it back to normal. There you go. So you don't have to use all of these font properties. If you understand what the shorthand way is, you're good to go. Try it out yourself. And that's all that I wanted to cover when it comes to font properties. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.